All right, let's go. All right. I want to talk about Stamkos. I just think I watched him play, and he's playing dynamite.
So why haven't they signed him?
They just want to see if he can play. Just see if he can play, if he's interested in playing. And so far, he's been very, very interested in playing.
Well, you're playing for a contract, so
that's what scares me about him. Like he's playing for a contract right now.
But he got a good goal last night. Snapped to top corner. Got two.
I know he's playing terrific.
So talking about Tampa, Dad, we'll jump around, talk about the teams. Season started, but bad news for Tampa with Vasilevsky out.
Well, that he was half their team when they won it. He was half their team. Remember, he was so big.
Yeah,
he just stand there. I'd like to go to Nylander. There's not enough money in the bank. The cap.
Right.
And they will assign him eventually. I can't see them trade him.
You know what, Dad? Like I was wrong. I thought for sure Matthews would leave Toronto. But didn't you, Cindy?
Oh yeah.
But so was surprised. But I think Nylander is slow playing them.
I think we should mention double hat trick.
Back-to-back hat tricks for
double.
Matthews.
I call him double. Holy Dinah. But scoring. Ovi's not scoring, but boy, he still plays it tough.
Yeah.
If Carlson doesn't see him coming on that check there, it's KO for the year. He just saw him at the last minute, but boy, he was.
Yeah, that's the thing with Ovechkin. You got to be careful because you don't know what kind of mood he's in. If he's not scoring, he's in a bad.
He's not scoring. He says, "Well, I got to do something."
He would have killed Carlson if he would have hit him head on. I got to say, Cindy, watching the highlights and watching the games and stuff, I think there's more fights this year.
I think there is. And how would I say it? They're not upset after the fights. They sort of like the fights.
I think, to me, because I was talking with a friend, I said, I think every team's mantra is if they're not favored, just get into the playoffs. Be like Florida, squeak in at the end of the season. And if you get a hot goalie, you could go to the finals.
You get a hot goalie, you could go to the finals easy. And the hot goalies, as we saw in Edmonton, we won't go into Edmonton because they've lost 2 straight.
Well, what do you mean we won't? We should. I mean, the people okay, if you're Woodcroft, their coach, are you panicking?
I am panicking.
After 2 games.
So early in the season.
Listen, I panic after 1 game.
But let me ask you, though, that I was watching the game, and Vancouver, Tocchet's really got them playing well, for sure. And
there's no doubt that Tocchet has got them playing well. There's no doubt about that.
So it's 4-1 or 4-0 in the opening game with the Oilers. I hate to be knocking the coach, but he pulls Campbell, puts Skinner in, and Skinner lets in 4 goals.
But can I ask you, with pulling your goalie, then putting him back, haven't now you destroyed 2 goalies' confidences?
What was that again?
Well, you're saying they put the goalie back in that, you would have put the goalie back in that you pulled. Now you've destroyed 2 confidences. No,
I said, you got me into this, get me out.
Yeah, Colorado was different, but I remember in Boston, I can't remember you pulling Cheevers or Gilbert.
I might have at one time.
I mean, in Atlanta, I remember getting pummeled, and I think it was Cheevers, you just left him in there.
Yeah.
But he didn't care, though, did he?
He didn't care.
Well, Gilly cared, because remember the first game, he said, there goes my average.
Oh, I remember the very first game. Here's Coach of the Year in the American League, and everything can come up, and we go into Buffalo, and a little midget. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's bad saying that. But Danny Gare gets a hat trick.
He's a rookie, yeah.
Jeez, he's a rookie.
You lost 9-5.
Is that what we lost?
9-5. Gilly was in for 9 goals.
Yeah, and he says, well, there goes my average.
First game.
Jeez, he's worried about his average.
It was a write-off.
It was a write-off. Well, we might look back in the year. It bothered him, his average. And you'd think it would...
But it didn't bother Cheevers.
Oh, no, it never bothered Cheevers.
Because you knew, I remember you always saying with Cheevers, If you're up 4-1.
If you're up 4-1, you know it's going to end up 5-4. You
Keep
start
him awake.
showing off, and
You had to
Yeah,
keep him
he-
awake out there.
yeah, he was a show off. There's no doubt about it. And you know, a lot of people don't know that they put that rule in the shooting over the glass. If we were having a tough time, he'd just shoot it over the glass.
Yeah, he could really handle a puck.
And he could really skate too. He loved not stopping pucks.
So was it a weird type of relationship that you played with him at one time in Rochester?
Well, I knew him. I knew what he
So
wanted.
that was an advantage for you that you knew him as
Yeah, but after the first year, they could have had Mickey Mouse behind the bench, but the second year I reverted back to my old days when I was in Rochester. Believe me, and it was.
So when you say that, name a couple things that you changed in the second year as opposed to your first year with the Bruins.
Oh, the first year they'd gone to the finals before, and they kept saying, don't worry.
Wait till the bell rings.
Wait till the bell rings, and the bell never rang. Never rang for me anyhow.
So let me ask you, Dad. I remember a funny story we could talk about goaltending with Cheevers. He would ruin practice. He would ruin scrimmages, right?
It got to the point that Terry O'Reilly came to me and said, there's no sense in why scrimmage? He says, because he just lets in every goal. I think he steers them.
And I could see Terry getting upset at that because Terry O'Reilly was pretty intense.
he was mad. And I said, okay, hit the left pad. Hit the left pad, and we'll count that as a goal.
And you didn't tell Cheevers.
I didn't tell Cheevers.
Oh.
And they go in, they hit the left pad, they count it as a goal. And Cheevers, oh boy, he come up to me after a practice and he says, you notice how I'm stopping pucks a lot better now? and then somebody told him that they would hit the left pad. Was he mad?
That's funny.
So, Cindy and Dad, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Spreads.ca. They're a Canadian-owned online casino and sportsbook. And if you sign up now...
And that means a lot, Canadian.
It does. And if you sign up now and use the promo GRAPES, they'll spot you $25 on your first bet. You get 10 spins on the big wheel for some big dough. And they'll match your first deposit up to $250. So, Dad was Connor Bedard's big... hockey face that was...
He looks pretty good.
Yeah, but we were laughing because the big thing was going to be Bedard facing off against Crosby.
Oh, yeah. There was no way that Crosby was going to lose that and that face-off. And boy, that was the most important face-offs of the year for him.
Boy, did he ever bear down.
It didn't look like I think the Bedard let him win the.
I don't know. I don't think he won a face-off that whole game.
It was 2-12.
Yeah,
2-12. Won 2 out of 14 draws.
What pressure that kid must be under, eh? How old is he? What is he?
Yeah, but he's been under pressure ever since he was junior. Yeah.
So another thing happened last night, Cindy. Dad came over to watch the game, and for the first time, Dad, you watched a UFC fight from start to finish. And I thought, gee.
Well, yeah, I watched it. And how about the first round?
So it was a guy named Barboza, who was an older guy. He was kind of at the end of his career, and a young guy named Yusuf.
And holy Dinah.
In the first round, Barboza
got knocked. He got knocked, pillared to the post, as they say, and I thought for sure this is, and I thought the second round the guy's resting. He was resting, all right.
And then the guy that got Barboza got almost knocked out the first round. He came back and won the fight.
And you should have seen him get knocked out and almost knocked out. I guess so.
Yeah.
He didn't know where he was. And what did he say after?
No, it was after the fight. They were interviewing him, and they said the guy said to him, he goes, "I don't think you knew where you were in that first round." And he goes, "Knew where I was in that first round." He says, "I didn't know if I was at home. I was watching the kids, watching the dog." He said, "Next thing, oh yeah, I'm in Vegas." But and the funny thing is that I watched it, And then I watched boxing was on the next, and it was two pretty good guys.
Yeah, but
It was a different. It's tough watching UFC than going back watching boxing.
Yeah.
Because it's so much slower. So, Dad, a lot of people want to know. Of course, they want to know, what do you think the Leafs are going to do this year?
well, I've said from the start. Didn't I tell you before?
Yeah.
I said before that the Leafs are going to do well, and so far they've done pretty. They were pretty lucky that first game.
Yeah, I felt bad for Montreal that first game.
They
were
should-
up 2-0. They score a goal, make it 3-0. They call it back. Then their goalie lets in a crappy goal. It's 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1.
They should have won that game. They should have won.
3-0 went from 3-0 to 2-1.
Well, I came over your place, Tim, to watch the game. I must say, Dad, I really enjoy watching a hockey game with you because I love asking you the questions of the coaching and all. And remember at the end when they had the chalkboard and the guys showing, what's going on. And I said to you, did you ever tell like a player what to do, if you had a break and how to score the goal or whatever? Did you ever have that to enlighten them?
The only time that I ever told a player, I used to tell them all the time in between periods, but nobody knew, was I call a timeout. There was a face-off in our end. It was just inside the blue line, and it was by the bench. So I thought, I don't know what I thought. I really don't. I mean, I'm telling John Rattel how to take a
Oh,
thing.
he was taking the draw, right?
Yeah. So anyhow, I call a timeout, and I'm down the front of the bench, and I call John Rattel over, and the sweat just running down.
He was cut, I remember.
He was cut. He wasn't cut bad, but he was just cut around the eye, and there was sweat coming down. And I said, John, now instead of pulling the puck back on our end, which they can score, there was about 35 seconds left. Go with the guy. The guy's a left-hand draw, and you're a left-hander. Go with it. Go with him because he's going to pull it back. Go with him in our end. It's all over. He says, yes, Donnie, I have that figured out. And the players just kill it. And the play, anything to embarrass me. And
So who I would always say, who on the bench started to laugh?
Peter McNabb.
Really?
He was standing right. He was right beside me, and he was just killing himself. And the rest of the guys heard it too. And imagine me telling me.
Yeah. Was he embarrassed? Did John feel bad?
And he came after, and I closed the door in my little office after everybody, all the reporters and everything had left. I want to apologize for saying that, Donnie. Call me Donnie.
Yeah, he came into that office to apologize a lot with you. Didn't he have another occasion?
He come in like this. I used to come in all the time. I don't want any lady bings on this team. No lady bings, and lady bing. And he won the lady bing.
Oh.
And he came in, he said, Donnie, I am sorry. And I think, what the heck is he sorry for? And John Rattel being sorry. And he says, well, winning the Lady Bing.
Speaking of John Rattel, he took me, gave me golf lessons.
He did?
Yeah, he took me out.
He used to be a pro golfer.
Yeah, he looked like tall and lean, right? He looked like a golfer.
And he leaning over, I guess.
And so he took me and he gave me a sand wedge, and I still use it. I still have a sand wedge.
You still have it? You still have it?
Yeah, I still use it. Yeah,
I thought you still had the sandwich that he gave you.
No, a sand wedge.
Oh, okay.
And, I'd never give that up, right? John Rattel thing. But, Dad, we were watching the Leafs the two nights, a little worried about their goaltending. I mean, thank God Matthews can score a hat trick every game.
Yeah, they better get that straightened out. I don't know what it is. And Martin Jones.
You call him Casey Jones.
I call him Casey Jones, but it's Martin Jones. I think that he will be the goaltender at the end because he's a pretty good goaltender and he's down in the Marlies right now. He passed the waivers.
Yeah, I was thinking, why wouldn't Tampa pick him up?
I thought somebody would pick him up, and he passed the waivers, and he's down with the Marlies now.
Yeah. Speaking of goalies, we were talking about pulling goalies. We'll just jump back. I remember one time you're in Colorado and Hardy Ashram's in the net.
Were you?
No, I wasn't there.
No, you weren't there?
So you were in New York.
We're in New York, and we want to look good. You know what I mean? Hardy's letting them in from all over. I mean, he's letting them in from all over, and he wants to bail. He wants to come out. I said to Kevin Morrison, you don't let him bail because he's wanting to bail out, and he pushed him right pushed it right back in the net, and he knew he was going to be there for the rest of the year. And we lost 6-0. I never forgot that. We lost 6-0.
Well, I got a funny story that I tell you about. One of the defensemen we had was one of the greatest guys, Mike Christie.
Oh, he was a great guy.
And he was a defenseman, and he came in, and you never looked at stats.
I didn't look at them in Boston. I didn't look at them. If you take a line off when they're in their end, and you put that line, the same line on when it's in your end, it
plus
only
minus
stands
is-
to reason that you're going to get more goals scored on you. And so I never looked at stats. And
But some guy came and put the stat on your
and I
desk.
don't know. I never, and it was covered up. I don't know how he ever.
Because I was there. You were on the phone, and he came in, and he was kind of in his underwear, and he was having a tough time, and he started looking through your papers, going through the coach's thing, and he pulled out the plus minus stats.
Minus 38, he says, minus 38. I knew I was a minus, but I didn't know I was minus 38. I said, don't pay any attention to Mike, don't pay any attention to them. I understand. I've tried to make the player feel better. He says, that's hard. Every time I step on the ice, he lets one in. And sure enough, and I remember in Winnipeg one time, he just stepped on the ice and he went and Hardy let one in from the blue line, and I remember him over in the corner. He leaned on the little lip that was there, and he just thought to himself, "There he is again, letting
minus 39 now."
Yeah, minus 30 now.
No, Brian. Brian Kilray came up with a good idea about plus minus. He said you should start over every month.
Yeah.
Because he says you could have a bad month and be like minus 15.
Yeah.
And then you can have a good month and say you're plus 15, but you're even.
Yeah.
So he said, I like looking at it every month, looking at the stats, because he goes, you can't tell if a guy's really how well a guy's playing.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
of course, that's why he won over 2,000 games in the junior and be the winningest junior coach of all time.
Well, Dad, I got to tell you, I think one of the cruelest things of you in hockey and not pulling a goalie is not pulling Davey Reese when Sittler went crazy with 11 points. I was at that. Everyone says they were at the game, but I really was at that game, at the Toronto game.
I was thinking of pulling him. I mean, I'm not that cruel. And I looked down at Cheevers, and he put a towel over his head.
Well, because it was Cheevers' first game back. He hadn't played yet, right? He just came back from the WHA.
Yeah, and Chili was hurt, so he was the backup. And I looked down at Cheevers, and he put a towel over his head.
Nice.
And the next night, we flew back to Boston, and we played Detroit that night. Cheevers was in the net, and we won. He got a shutout.
And poor Davey Reese, that was his last NHL game.
That was his last NHL game. And he didn't have a bad record. He was 3-1, I think.
But that was one of those games, boy, the puck was going in off of everybody.
And I remember I think the last one went off Park's foot. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Poor guy.
Oh, and you know what? We never lost. I don't think we ever lost to Toronto after that.
Oh, it was years until Boston never lost.
And somebody sent me a picture of Ballard giving a Sittler a tea set, and it was at silver and all that stuff and everything. We never lost another game. It's funny. I just happened to spread that. I got about 3 of those pictures.
So, Dad, it was good news in Winnipeg. They signed Scheffler and Hellebuck to long-term contracts, so that's all locked up.
I thought Hellebuck would be leaving. I really did. I really thought he'd be leaving. And what did you say he played? 135 games?
In 2 seasons, in the last 2 seasons, he's played 135 games.
It's a little too many, too much. Cheever's going in. I used to like to have him play about 45.
Yeah, when you look, 1 year... Cheevers and Gilbert were hurt. Ronnie Graham played 40 games, and then when there was Cheevers and Gilbert, that was pretty much split.
I went from the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League to the worst.
Yeah. So the one thing that we'll talk quickly about, and we've seen some awful stuff, and Dell being a goalie, is young coaches pulling goalies.
Remember that time that he pulled that kid? And it was the deflection in front of the net. Oh, I never got over it. And the poor kid never took his mask off the whole game. No. And they won the game, but
Yeah, well, I've seen some horrible stuff. I was remember it was a playoff game. The Toronto Marlies were playing, I think it was the Rebels, and it was 1-1 halfway through the game, and the guy got scored on in a breakaway, and he pulled the goalie. And that was it for the kid. They lost the game, and they lost 3 straight and stuff like that. So you got to be. You've always said you got to be careful with.
Got to be careful with goaltenders. They're a different type of people. Well, I would never pull a goaltender during the game, playing during the game. I would always wait till the period was over, and then when we come out, he'd be the guy. I think I did. I can't remember.
Oh, you pull a few goalies in Colorado. You pull a goalie on one shot. What's his name?
Oh yeah, I never forgot this one. I'd like to end on this one. This is a true story. We were out shooting St. Louis in St. Louis, 11-0, and they shot. They stepped over the red line and took a shot on net. And I looked up at the score. It was 1-0 for them. And I looked up at the shots. And it was 11-1. And that's it. I pull him in the first period and the first shot. I paid for the price of all those good goaltenders in Boston.